how to document a process using the process tools inside of TouchStone. Um, Another big theme for today beyond that is we're going to be talking about how to get your employees to follow processes, how to get your managers to use processes to manage. So I have some tips and techniques for that. And there's two outlines or two handouts that I've attached to the chat that I'll show those a little bit today, but it's in more detail than what we're gonna cover today. If your employees aren't using the processes, then you're wasting your time. You're wasting your time in this meeting, you're wasting your time with TouchStone. So the importance of that is very, very high. In order for you to get any kind of benefit from the documentation, the time you're spending to do that, you have to make sure your employees are using the processes. And if you follow some rules that I'm going to share with you, it's not that hard. Those of you who've had frustration on that in the past, I would suggest that it's because of lack of technique. It's a lack of a process for doing it. So that's going to be towards the end that we'll go through that. So let's go over here to the 4 key functions, and I'm going to go to that same process that we left off on. So this is the 4 functions, and all I'm doing is clicking a process right here that has been added to my 4 functions. Another way to get to a process is to go here through the org chart and then choose a position that has the process linked to it. So there's 2 ways. One is to go to the 4 key functions and go to the process, or select the process from a position that it has been linked to. So TouchStone, its infrastructure is very simple, and it needs to be, because it's easy to get out of control and have things become really complicated when you're documenting your business. So the simplicity of it is there's a list of all the processes in the 4 functions. There's a picture of all of your roles, your department, your people on the org chart. And then all the processes from the 4 key functions over here are linked to the boxes on the chart here. And you've got a list of what everyone's accountable for. So everything's listed here. It's linked to roles here. And then when those boxes are selected, you see all the processes that that position is responsible for. You can even go to reports right here, and I can, or sorry, process reports, and I can hit this little report called not linked. And now this is a list of all of my processes that haven't been linked to positions yet. So we're going to be talking more about reports over the next few sessions, but this idea of there being a master list in the 4 functions, the roles on the org chart, and then the 2 are linked together by taking these processes and linking them here. This is just a report that supports that, because it lets you know if you forgot anything, if you forgot to link a process to any position. Clearly, this list is wild. Like you shouldn't have this. You should have very few on this list. If you see a list like this or something similar, or even more than 10, all you do is click the process there on the report and then go to this link tool right here. And then I see my org chart and I can link it to the positions that are responsible for that process. All of this comes together here on the dashboard, because when you assign a role to your employees here and they select it, they're seeing all those processes that you've linked to this position. The only difference is here on the dashboard, it's read only, like they're using things, they're completing them, I'm going through training with the processes. Nothing is edited or changed here. Okay, so let's go back. So when you select a process, it takes you to this screen, and this is where the documentation is created. So last week we discussed work plans and we talked a little bit about checklists. So today I'm going to complete the rest of these tools and talk about how you use them, when you use them, why you use them. Before we do that, I just want to highlight a few things that we covered last week. So when you're building a work plan like this one, so this is the tool that's at the top, it's the one that's used the most. Every process at the end of the day should have a work plan, because the work plan is the details, it's the training, it's the step by step with all the information in it that you need. Processes may have checklists and scripts and files and forms, and they may not. It just depends on what the needs of the process is, what you choose to use to document it with. But every process should have a work plan. So, and because of that reason, you should always start with a work plan. So when you hit a process and you think, what's the first thing I need to do here? Think work plan. So it could be one work plan with a series of tasks like this one, or you could have multiple work plans. Sometimes processes have multiple workflows, or there's multiple things that happen within it. And then that would be an example of when you would have multiple work plans. In a way, you can think of these work plans as the sub areas of the process. So if we're looking at the flow here, this is the operations key function. We're in the process called customer complaints. And within customer complaints, there could be multiple parts. There are a couple cool AI tools to help you build work plans. So the first here is ChatGPT, which has been built into the work plan tool. It's already programmed as an agent. It's already gonna build an SOP from whatever you type in here. So create a step-by-step for as part of the prompt. And this is here just to let you know that you don't need to prompt it to do that. It's already going to do that. So here you would put in sales calls or customer complaint process. And then when you hit go, the AI will create a step-by-step, and you can either replace an existing work plan like this one, or you make a new one. The next great AI tool is called Scribe. So this is a Scribe embed. So Scribe will take screenshot captures for you, and then you can make work plans out of them. So I have the free version of Scribe is good enough for this. And if you want to click here, it'll take you right to how to create a free account. At the end today, I'm going to go here to our help center and show you where there are some small, if you missed last week's session, where there are some short little tutorial videos, which will remind you how to do this. So again, Scribe is this screen capture workflow AI where it will, as you're clicking on your screen, it's going to take screenshots of what you're doing, and then it's going to intuitively, using its AI, come up with prompts like click here, go here, do this. And then you take that embed, or you take the Scribe and you copy the embed code, which is one click to find it in Scribe. You paste it in here, and then you hit save. And then you have this screenshotted workflow. And someone's asking a question about it. So I'm just going to show you an example of one that I have somewhere in here. So this is an example of a Scribe. So this is what Scribe workflow looks like. It's a series of screen captures. So this is saying that I'm logging into Infusionsoft, which is our CRM. This is the intuitive clicks. I clicked here, so it's showing you with a screenshot. Then I clicked new contact. Then I clicked here, and it's again showing you the screenshot. Then I type in customer name, and it shows it being typed in to the field. It's showing exactly what you typed in. Then you hit submit. So this took, those of you who saw this last week, this literally took like 1 minute for me to do. And you're literally doing it as you're doing the work. And then you embed it, and you've got this nice little screen capture work plan. All these AI tools are great, but they get, sorry, my mouse is acting funky today. All these AI tools are great, but what happens is you get in mass SOP chaos with them if you don't have a tool like TouchStone that helps you to organize and use them. So if you're creating Loom videos and you're creating Scribe and you're doing Loom process documentation and you're using a workflow tool and then you're using a flow charting tool and you've just developed a checklist, you've got these training tools like all over your network. So what TouchStone does is it takes all of those and it links them to a role in the org chart, and it allows you to delegate them. Okay, so let's talk briefly about checklists. So to build a checklist, to build any of these tools, you just hit this plus sign. Should be pretty straightforward. So here you type in the checklist title. You put in the objective, which is the purpose. So this is the why does this exist? I feel like with checklists, the why is pretty important. And this is going to loop into our conversation later in the session about how to get employees to use the processes. For checklists in particular, if they understand the why of it, why does this checklist exist? Why does my manager need it? Why do I need to fill it out? If you give them that context, then they'll be more compliant with it because they understand the impact it has. So if you want to start to build a checklist, you just add checklist item, and then this is the where the box goes. So this is the information that I type in, the text, I hit save, and that is tied to this one checkbox. Then simple as that, untitled, click, and then this is box number 2, save. So checklists should be very clean and clear. You shouldn't have paragraphs of information in your checklist. If you have paragraphs of information in your checklist, that could be a sign that you're missing information that you're missing information in your work plans. Because the work plan is the overall step by step. It's the details. It's all the clear, detailed explanation of how to do it. When I'm filling out a checklist, I'm just like, did it, did it, did it, did it, tick, 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 done. It's not meant to show me or explain to me how to do it. Anytime you have a checklist, unless it's something that's super straightforward and doesn't need a whole lot of explanation, it probably would be accompanied by a work plan. So you'd have the work plan for customer complaints, which would be the details, the step by step, and then you could have a quality control checklist along with it. You can take a work plan and turn it into a checklist by clicking this icon here. So if I hit that and then I say, okay, this is then going to take this work plan and turn it into a checklist. So you can see it just put all the tasks next to these tick boxes here. So it took every task from here and it built it into a checklist with the exact same title. You can take a work plan and turn it into a checklist, but you can't take a checklist and turn it into a work plan. So that would be yet another reason to always start with a work plan and then decide after you've built the work plan, do I need a checklist? We also have AI in the checklist. So I'm going to go back to this original one. If you hit this icon and you say, create a checklist for customer complaints. That'd be kind of a weird checklist, but we'll just keep with the theme. And then you hit go. It's going to use ChatGPT to come up with a checklist. Investigate the nature, contact the customer, determine the root cause. So this is probably a poor example because this reads to me more like it should be a work plan. And then you could take that work plan and convert it into a checklist. So the work plan would have way more detail. But this create a checklist for is great for things like, closing the office. And you could put in what kind of industry you're in, or is it what position is doing it, closing the office for the receptionist in an office building, something like that. And then you can see it comes up with a pretty clean little clear step by step. And I'm just going to add this. And then it literally takes it and makes it into a checklist inside of TouchStone, which is pretty cool because then on the dashboard, somebody can go to this checklist, whoever it's been assigned to, and they can fill it out every day to make sure that they've closed the office. Once it's in TouchStone, you can edit it. So I just click here on the tasks and it opens. This toolbar is the very same one that's in the work plans and the other tools. Um, I mean, you could have pictures, you could insert an image into a checklist. I guess I could see a way that that might be useful. But again, you don't want to put too much detail in here because this isn't training them in how to do this. This is just verification that they did it. You probably wouldn't have hyperlinks in a checklist. Again, you might, but generally speaking, the checklist is this quality control. It's not meant to be connected to other things that where other actions take place. The checklist items are all drag and drop. Even this one that got created from AI, I'm just dragging these up and down. If I want to delete a box, I just open it first, then I hit delete, and then I say okay, and then that box goes away. This toolbar item here, I showed it to you in the work plans, but I'll just highlight this again quickly. This will allow you to move a tool out of a process into another process. So that type of functionality is important when you're developing your processes, because sometimes you'll make two processes and then you might decide to make it one, or you might have one and you think there's way too much going on in here, so let's break it into two. So that's how you would move a tool out of one process into another. Another common way that this is used is if you've downloaded a library process. So you've gone here to our library, general processes, you take a process and you copy it, download it. So once you've downloaded it, you might ask yourself, okay, do I need this? Do I want it? All right, my mouse is having a fit today. Um, and once you're in it, you might look through the content like this satisfaction surveys, or maybe you like this survey over the phone custom form. So maybe you don't like the rest of this stuff, but you like this tool, then you can use this to move this out of this library process into your own customer satisfaction process. And then you can delete the rest of this process. So that's another way that this move can be used. Let's go back. So let's talk about a little about how you use checklists and why you use them. So first and foremost, a checklist is for quality control. It's for quantification. It's for management purposes, for reporting. So quality control is when there is something that's of the utmost of importance. It's very complicated. It involves a lot of moving parts. It's got a lot of details. And the employee themselves really just needs a way to track what they've done and what they haven't done. So a checklist like this one can be used on the dashboard. And before we end today, I'm going to show you what that looks like. It's not used here where we are. Here is where we're building it. This isn't where it's used. It's used through the dashboard. So the checklist for quality control, think about, is that necessary? Is it important? Is it very valuable that I have my employees spend their time ticking this off every time that they do it because of the quality reasons? If the answer to that is yes, then by all means have a checklist. If you're not sure, or you're thinking, well, maybe some of the time, but not all the time, then don't have a checklist. I think one of the ways to ensure that your processes get followed is to make sure that you really have a good why for them and that they're important enough that a manager is going to stand up and reinforce this every time it's not done. So test that, have a little test with yourself saying, how valuable is this? How important is this? Don't over checklist things because then your people will get used to seeing massive amounts of checklists and that nobody's really filling out and using. So think about it for quality control. Think about it for management purposes. That's a perfectly valid reason to have a checklist. The employee, this is a situation where the employee themselves is not going to understand why it's important because it doesn't affect them. They're doing the work affects them. They're ticking off those boxes as they do it is important, but it's not for them. It's for management. It's for quantification. It's for employee management reporting. It's so a manager can make sure things are getting done without having to run around and ask. That's a very valid reason for having a checklist. Managers want to make sure that things are happening without them having to micromanage it, having to be over it all the time, um, having to wonder, and then really only knowing when there's a problem. So if it's for management purposes, explain the why of that, and then have a checklist. Let's go to the next tool. The next tool is called a script, and Scripting is a very valuable documentation form. Um, it's great when the script is isolated from the overall step by step. So what I mean by that is a lot of times I'll see scripts or words built into tasks in a work plan. And sometimes that works, but for the most part, if you isolate the script by doing something like this, if this is not a warranty issue, use the script rather than saying, if this is not a warranty issue, call the customer, ask them when the issue happened and why. If they say XYZ, then tell them this. You see what I mean? It gets into this big run-on paragraphs and paragraphs of words. It's more powerful when you can pull that out and build it into a script like this one. So this is the script template. This script template, I think, is simple and fantastic all at the same time. The prompt is an explanation of what's happening. So it's the question being asked, it's the situation that they're in, it's the tone of what they're about to say. If you think of an acting script, anybody who's seen that, usually in an acting script, there's like italicized with what to be thinking and feeling while you're saying this. The prompt is all that. And then the script, which is right under the prompt, is what is actually said. It's the literal words that are used. Then the prompt and script can go from the first interaction down to the second, to the third, to the fourth. In a workflow script like this one, it starts somewhere, like in the beginning with a greeting, and then it goes all the way to the conclusion of the conversation. So you have these prompt, script, all the way down till the end. So you can have workflow scripts like this, which are literally a whole conversation, or you can have FAQ scripts like this, which are question answer, situation, what you do and say, something that happens, what you say and do about it. So these don't go in any particular order. They're just something that may happen or something that may not happen, and then what is said in that situation. These two types of scripts tend to go together really well. So if you have a process that needs a script, and you know it needs a script when there's any kind of verbal interaction in it, significant verbal interaction. So we don't want to over document because that leads to paralysis and nobody using anything. So don't over document. In the very first session, we talked about the 80-20 rule and some tips and techniques on deciding when a process needs to be documented and when it doesn't. So think about this for scripting as well. If you just have a, hi, how can I help you? And then you go to the next task, maybe you don't need to say what that person says literally in a whole script. So if it's a casual thing that is just said or answered, then you can definitely leave that just in a task of a work plan. But when it's a significant part of the process, like this script would be, because I'm talking to someone trying to provide them a solution to their complaint, then it's very important how things are said and done. So scripts are common for customer service type processes, employee interactions, things that are essential to be done and said a certain way to preserve and really embody your management philosophy. Anything that is customer interfacing, where like a sales process or a lead intake process, where what I say and do and how I explain things, service delivery, all of that is important for scripting. So if there's a conversation that happens, you'll have some type of a conversational script like this one, and then along with it, have an FAQ script. So the thought along this is that if I'm providing a solution to someone who has a complaint, there's a great way that this could go if I'm following the best techniques. I say hi to them. I really say, tell me what happened. I'm really interested. Tell me your side of the story. They tell me what happened, and I say, let me repeat that back to you so I make sure that I'm really getting what happened. So there's these techniques and how to talk and communicate with somebody who's unhappy. And so this script would epitomize the best way for that to go from beginning to end. So you hear their problem, you solve it at the end. Now, we all know that things don't go that way all the time, that there are these little something comes out of left field or something gets brought up that pulls us away from what the ideal conversation would be. So in those situations, the FAQ script tries to handle those situations. So what to say when the product is damaged or late. Not all products are damaged or late. That's not always part of the conversation on how to fix their problem. So we wouldn't be in the overall kind of top to bottom conversational script. It would be in the FAQ script. If they're saying, why is that so expensive? Or I don't want to pay that. Well, you don't want to bring that up unless they ask it. So that's, another kind of FAQ for a sales process. So you want to brainstorm and think, what are all the different ways and things that happen during customer complaints? And let's document whatever we can think of right now. These FAQ scripts are always evolving. And innovation is so important with your documentation. So it could become a kind of thing where, once a month, maybe you focus on the customer complaint process and everybody brings questions or issues or things that they may have been faced with over that month that aren't in the script. And then you add it and you make it better and you can make it better. This is really great with sales scripts for those of you who sell a service or something that's not just transactional, because salespeople gain techniques and experience and ways of doing things based on their experience. And they may keep that close to themselves and not tell other people about it. And that's all happening on your dime. So you want to take that intellectual property and put it into your process, like build it into your sales system, with the result being that a new salesperson could come on board and they could gain from all of those 20 years of experience that you've had selling what you're selling, or the 5 years of experience your top sales guy has garnered in his time with you. So if you take all that knowledge and you build it into the script, well, then that's incredible, right? You can take someone with a very low conversion rate and make their conversion rate much higher. And this is the value of scripting. This is why I think that this is an underutilized template for process documentation, because it captures knowledge, it captures how to say something, how to explain something, how to resolve somebody's yeah buts, how to get over objections, all those things that happen in a way that really speaks well. Script, I'm not going to build a script, but it's the same way the other tools work. You just click this little plus sign, you're going to get prompted for the title and the objective, you hit create script. If you have an existing script or a script that came from the library, this is all just click to edit. So click open. I don't think you would have any pictures in a script or even any hyperlinks. It's really focused on what is said. Now I'm going to jump from here all the way to the bottom to this tool, because these two go together quite well. So this is the audio upload. So this will allow you to take an MP3 file and upload it to the process. So this might be the exception to a hyperlink inside of a script, because you could go like to this providing a solution script and the first prompt could be listen to this. Or if you had a certain, I think small audio clips are good. So let's say that you're talking to someone about something in the FAQ script around explaining to them how they may have made a mistake when they were ordering, which caused the problem. So let's say it's this situation here. You could do an audio file of someone saying that in a role play. Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Customer, we explained to you in the beginning that you had to pay extra for X, Y, and Z. So there's a nice way to say that really says, God, I really understand how you're feeling, but this is what happened. Let me just explain it to you. If we want to add that later, you can. So in a tone that works. So you put that in as an audio file, and then you could come here to the prompt and you could highlight it. You could say, listen to this, and you go to the hyperlink tool here. And then you look for the audio file that you've uploaded already. There it is. I only have one. And then you hit insert, and then you save it. So right here in the prompt, it says, listen to this. And so this, you're making this come alive, right? Because this prompt is telling you to explain something difficult in a certain way, and then they can hit right here and listen to the audio file. Now this says how not to sound, and I put that in there because I think this is a clever way of doing it. You could have an audio file that says how to sound, and then maybe one that says how not to sound. Because again, if you can hear yourself or someone else explaining it with two different tones, then that really has an impact if you're when you're learning. So to upload an audio file, and we'll come back to this because video is the same. You just put in the title, hit create, and then you drag and drop it into the field. So I'll show you that when we get towards the end. Next tool down here is called uploaded files. And to upload a file, it's super simple. You just put the file name. What this is a file is an uploaded file is a Word, Excel, PowerPoint, or PDF document that is in a certain file format, software format, and you want to upload that whole document or Excel spreadsheet and keep it in that software format. So you don't want to convert it into something else. It's going to stay as a Word file or stay as a PDF. So when you're naming it, name it the same as it is on your desktop or wherever the file came from. Objective, again, this is the purpose. Why is this file here? And I would really stress that it takes less than a minute to put these in here. And the impact is great because when an employee is looking at this, without even clicking on it, they can tell what the purpose is. Why is this here? Why is this document here? So I think it's twofold. One is it makes you intentional about why you're putting it in there, why it is in there. And then two, it explains to the employee why it's there. So this is the drag and drop field. All you do is take the file itself, drag it into the field, release. It's going to say upload complete. Boom, there it is. If you want to view the file, you just hit view file. It's going to drop it to your downloads like it did right here, and then you can click it and open it. This is just importing documents in and exporting them out. Nothing's happening in TouchStone. So if you upload a spreadsheet or a Word document, and then you view it, and then you open it, and Word opens or Google Docs opens, and you make changes to it, those changes aren't happening in TouchStone. They're happening in Google Docs. So in that situation, you have to save it and then re-upload it. Just take it, drag it into the field, and now whatever I put here is going to replace the old one with the new one. So just remember that. Now, uploaded files are great for any extra information related to the process that doesn't fit into the other tools. So any information that is useful, but it's not a work plan, it's not a checklist, it's not a file, it's not a form, it's not a video. It needs to stay in its original software format. So some examples would be if you have like a PDF manual, which is like your employee handbook maybe, or it's a product manual, or you have a spreadsheet that is your budget template. There's no spreadsheet tool inside of TouchStone, so it needs to be an uploaded file. Maybe you have a PowerPoint presentation. Well, people don't have those much anymore, but that would be a good uploaded file because there's no tool for that in TouchStone. If it's a Word document, I would think about should that be an uploaded file or could you put it into the document tool? And I'll show you an example of that here in a second. If you can cut and paste it out of Word into the document tool, that's preferable because if it's in the uploaded file tool, I have to click this. Okay, now I'm on the file, and this is on the dashboard as well, and hit view file. It's going to launch Word, then it's going to show it to me. So it's these extra steps, that extra clicks that you have to go through. So if you can make it into, if it's text, you can cut and paste it into the document tool. Okay, so let's talk about the document tool next. So to make a document, I just click it and then I'm going to put in the name. And I know I showed you this already, but I'll just do it again. Put in the Y and then hit create document. And then boom, there's your document. And if I click Untitled, it opens. So all this is a blank Word document. It's a free-flowing text field. And I can pretty much do anything to it that you could a Word document. So if I had information that was in Word or in Google Docs, I could do a select all, copy, and then paste, and it would paste right in here to the Word into the document. I could do an image over here, which I wanted, if I had a picture that I wanted to be 8.5 by 11, like a really big picture, I could cut and paste that or drag and drop that picture in. Sometimes you have to show something in 8.5 by 11 or bigger, and you can't like, it doesn't look right in the work plan because it shrinks down too small. So any situation like that where the zoom in and out is important and you want it to be bigger. So then you could take this document and hyperlink it to the work plan where you're referring to it. You can build a table. So this is the table building row. So I can do, columns and rows and click that, and now I have a table. I'm going to show you the custom form tool, which I think is preferable for fill in the blank kind of forms, but you can definitely do this. You can highlight the rows. You can take tables that are in Word and you can cut and paste them into here. This tool is also good for if you have a list of something. So let's go to an example of that. This is a list of customer satisfaction guidelines. So this is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This isn't tasks. It's not actions. It's just informational. So it's good in the document tool. You could take this and make a work plan out of it if you wanted to, but I think this makes more sense for it because it's not like step by step by step showing something. It's more informational. You can write your mission, purpose, values in the document tool. You could write your management philosophy in the document tool. You could put a letter in here. You could put sample emails. So anything that doesn't fit into the other tools, I suggest the document tool for. And you see back to the uploaded file idea. If I want to see this, I have to click it. Then I have to click view file. Then it's going to send it to my downloads. Then I click it. Then it opens. It's like 4 extra clicks. So again, if you have something that's in the document tool or in a Word document, cut and paste it into the document tool. Let's talk about policy next. So there's always this confusion around what's a procedure, what's a process, what's a policy, what's a SOP, what's a system. There's all these words for it. And some people form their own definitions of these things, but I like to keep things simple. So to me, a procedure, a process, a system, an SOP is all the same thing. It's all the same thing. It's a documented explanation on how to do that. It's the full details of how to get that work done, how to accomplish the result. In TouchStone, we have these templates or tools which help you do that, and you pick and choose from what those are. Probably 75% of your processes are just going to have work plans. And the rest may use these other tools if needed. Now, if the process has a policy is a rule, a standard, it's legal, it's compliance, it's safety related. It's something that's of the utmost of importance. And when I think about process, it includes policies related to that process. It includes scripting related to that process. It includes the checklists that are related to that process. It includes the forms and files that are related to that process. It all should be in the same place so that I have everything I need to handle a customer complaint all here in this process. So if there's a policy related to the customer complaint process, then put it in the process. That's how we do it in TouchStone. I think that's the way it makes more sense. I think that's how you can implement it better. That's how you can hold people accountable to it. The opposite of that would be to have a whole manual full of processes and policies. And sometimes people do that. There's like these policy manuals related to every department. When you put them into all together like that, people can scan through them and read them, of course, but it's going to be very hard for them to remember them and use them and make sure they're following them. Very hard because they won't remember because they're all in this manual of policies. So when you're documenting a process, think to yourself, is there any policy related to this that's essential? Now, the only exception to what I'm saying is probably an employee handbook, which is usually its own document um, that you have to have employees sign off on, and it's got all of the typical legal employee handbook type stuff. In the employee handbook, though, you could make that an uploaded file, and then you could make it a public process and assign it to employees, and they can go and view it anytime they need to. But if there are like really essential pieces of the employee handbook, like time off and vacation request or some important policy which gets brought up a lot, you can break the manual up and put documents related to those. So this could be, time off and vacation requests, or this could be vacation days. And then if somebody has a question about, oh, what are my vacation days? They don't have to dig through the employee manual. They could go to the process that's called employee handbook, and then they can view the manual if they want to, or they can go directly to these documents, which are, the more used pieces of the manual. So that's the tip. So anything legal, compliance, safety related, build a policy for it. This is a pretty standard template. It's going to have the to and the from, the date, the effective date, new or revised, and then this is the policy statement where you put in what the policy is itself. This now lives in this process. There could be multiple policies inside of a process if you needed there to be. Scrutinize this a little bit though. Make sure that it's something that's policy worthy. You don't want to over policy things because then they lose the impact. They lose the importance if you have so many. If it's just something people need to know about the process, always remember that you have the expectation section of the work plan. So listen to the customer's complaints, stay calm and respectful. Every customer complaint should be resolved in 24 hours. So this is important, right? It should be resolved in 24 hours, but I don't think I'd make it a policy that it is our policy that again, these are all preferences to a certain degree. So if you felt like that was policy worthy, then put it into the policy. But remember, you have this section too to put in things that are important. Another way to use policies is around changes that you need to make, like cultural changes or anything that is continuing to happen over and over again and you can't get it to stop. Often caused by a bad manager or a rogue employee, which is who had done things and said things a certain way, and it's kind of tainted the department. We've all seen this happen. So think about policies, think about the process they relate to first, but then think about policies that it's a way of drawing a line in the sand or putting your foot down and saying, this is the way it's going to be from here on out. Then you can assign it to everyone who is affected by it. They get a notification saying, and this happens in TouchStone right here through the dashboard. They get a notification saying XYZ new policy, click to complete. They click it, they go to it, they read it, and they complete it. And then you've got this evidence that the employee has read and seen it. And if you have that violation or that thing that happens again, you can use that policy to manage the employee with it. And this is going to be a segue into what we're going to end with today. But you can use that policy to say, listen, you read this, we've talked about it. What's really going on here? And you're over this whole thing of, well, I didn't see it, and it was in that manual, and I never got it. You know they saw it, you know they read it. Next tool down here is called the custom form tool. And this is kind of like Google Forms. It's a way to create a fillable form that can be completed and used inside of TouchStone. So these can be printed. Everything in TouchStone can be printed, but you could print these forms, but it's not, I guess you could, and then you have this amount of field to fill in, but they're really meant to be electronic forms. If you want to put a form in that you can print and you want to be able to control like the size of the answer fields and stuff like that. The document tool is probably better for that, to do tables and rows and create a form there. But if it's something that can be completed inside of TouchStone, the more the better, because it's electronic, it's easy, they can fill them out on their phones, and it's all saved back to TouchStone by date, time, person who did it, and you can run reports here and see them all. This is an employee test that's been created here. So it just rounding off the completion of the documentation of a process. If you think it needs a test, and ask yourself, because not everything needs a test. But for things that do need a test, build the test right inside of TouchStone. And then as part of the training, the employee can go and fill out this test. They can take this test. Now it's kind of like an open book test, because they could go back and look at the work plan here, or they could watch a video that's in it. So use the test to ask them questions that they have to think about, which are the best tests anyway. Tests that just regurgitate information aren't useful. So make it so they have to really use their brain to come up with the answer. So they've read through your process, they've watched your videos, they've learned it, but now can they articulate that in an open kind of question? Like, how do you begin a customer complaint conversation? You can do like, these are check boxes, these are yes, nos. So all of the table building information is right here. A short answer is a field that has like 2 or 3 words, so it's got a smaller field. Paragraph is this. This is an example of a paragraph. This will run on forever when they're completing it on the dashboard. Multiple choice is where you put in the question here, and then here are the answers. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can add more answers by hitting the plus sign, or you can delete them by hitting this. So this field would be the question being asked, and then these choices are the answers. A multiple choice question only has one answer. I'll save that, and then you could see it down here. So the question, and then these are the answers that I choose. This is a checklist within the form, which can have multiple things ticked off. So the checklist is created right here. So if you want to create a checklist for the process, but you want it to be more interactive, so it's not just a series of tick, 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 did it, did it, did it, did it, but it's more like did it, did it, did it, and what happened, and why did you do that? And you have these kind of fill in the blanks. Then use the custom form for this. You can have a massive checklist here, or any kind of a checklist, and then you also have where people are putting in information about why they did that. This is the drop down, and this is an example of that. It's good for yes, nos, or if you have a long list of things that they have to choose from. So in the drop down, you put in the choices here, and then it compacts it and kind of makes it a drop down list. You can move these boxes around just by dragging and dropping them. If you want to edit anything after you've added it, you just click, and then it opens here to edit. So use the custom form tool when you need to collect information about something that happened. When there's a test that you want to create. This is another custom form here. This is for the customer complaint itself. Now, I get asked this question all the time. If you have a customer complaint form inside of your operations management software, do you need it here too? Well, no, you don't. You don't want to duplicate things. I'm all about simple, not more. What would happen in TouchStone, though, is this would hold all the tasks of it. So how to handle the customer complaint, step by step, and then a link to fill out the form here. So it shows the standard operating procedure for how you use your operations management software to then handle the customer complaint. Next down is called the video, and that's all it is. So this is a drag and drop field, just like the uploaded file tool. So you can shoot a video, and then it's an MP4 file, and then you drag it into the field, and then the video appears right here in the process. I showed people last week about Loom is my favorite screen or video tool. So this is Loom right here. And what Loom will do is it will capture your screen and your voice. So you choose the screen that you want to share. And so Loom is just popping up now. It gives you a drop down. I close this, but you could have your video right here of yourself talking. And then you're clicking around at talking about how to use a particular form of software, how to do something, how to go to a certain website and do something. So all along, it's capturing a video of what you're doing. And then when you're finished, you hit the finish button. And then the Loom file or Loom itself will create a MP4 file that you can download and upload into TouchStone. So I'm sure there are other types of screen or video recording tools out there. The free version of Loom is pretty good. And once it's kind of set moving, it's going to wait for a second before it lets me download it. But when you hit download, then your video will pop into the download, and then you drag and drop it into the video screen here, and it's uploaded to TouchStone. All right, and then we have the audio tool down here. So same idea, except for this is an MP3 file. Drag and drop. So you hit the plus sign, put in the name of your audio file, then drag and drop it into this field and it loads. Videos are great for anything that's visual. So anything that you can show and talk about. So after you're finished with your documentation of your process, look at your work plan, think about the process itself, and ask yourself, could I do a visual interaction of this? Would that be useful? And if the answer is yes, then shoot a quick video using Loom. Use your phone to record something and then upload it. You don't need it to be some big Hollywood production. In fact, it's worse when it's that way, because when things change, then you feel bad about having to update it. And now we got to update it. So make them really ad hoc, casual, simple. If you say, oh, no, I didn't mean that, I want to click here instead, do that. Don't stop and reshoot the whole video. Make it natural. And then that way you can update your videos and update the information to it without being concerned that you spent so much time on that original video. I will say one thing about videos though. The video doesn't explain, it doesn't replace the need for a work plan. So a work plan is a step by step. The video shows a visual, but if I forget step 2 or step 10, I don't want to have to rewind a video to try and find it. So think about that. The video itself isn't always a fully documented process. So let's go here to the dashboard. So I just wanted to show you what these tools look like when they're here on the dashboard. So the dashboard is where you go to use the processes. So this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where it really matters. So if I'm the office manager and I'm handling a customer complaint, I'd go right here to customer complaints. And now I see this process. Now we used every single tool because we were using this as an example. Most processes are not going to use every single tool. And you can think about all the whys that I gave you for when you want to use all these tools. But this looks like a lot because we used every tool. Normally you might have a work plan and a video, or a work plan and a script. So there'll be 2 or 3. It's rare that every single tool would be used. So here's this checklist. If I click here, now this is live. So I can do a save as, and I can tick off these boxes as I do it. Then when I hit save, it saves a copy of this back to TouchStone and creates a PDF of it. So I'm going to be showing you more about this in the next 2 following sessions. It's really, the last session is going to be all about the dashboard, but I just wanted you to, in case you've never seen that before, see that congruency between what we created over here and what is used over here. So when it's used by your employees, it's cleaned up. The version of it is simpler and easier to navigate. And when you want to choose a form to take a test, or you choose a checklist to fill out, then they click it, fill it, and save it. Then you can run reports. They can run reports of the work that they're doing, and you can run reports of your employees. So let's talk about making sure your processes get implemented. So I'm gonna start with this. So these are a couple handouts that I put into the chat. I'm gonna pull this one over. So in all my 30 years of doing this, literally, um, right out of business school, I started to work for Michael Gerber. You probably most of you know him. He was the author of the E-Myth. He's in his late 80s now. That tells you how old I am. But I've been doing this a long time. And I really have learned over all these years that the only way to make sure that your processes are fully used is a equal parts motivation plus non-negotiable insistence. So equal parts motivation and what I'm calling non-negotiables. So there's this weight of insistence. You have to use them if you're going to work here, along with the motivation, because that motivation is important. And I think employees' lack of motivation comes from lack of understanding, honestly. So this is just a handout that I developed explaining this in a little bit more detail. I'm just going to highlight a few parts of it because you can read through it. We're going to put this into the library in TouchStone too, so it can be downloaded because it's a good thing to go over, create your version of this, and then have it be something that you can refer to with your employees. So self-motivation comes from education. And there's drivers that or benefits that processes have that you can highlight with your employees. So here's some of the drivers here. Clarification. So having a documented process means less stress because you're not guessing all the time. You're not having to figure it out on your own. Confidence. So no fear that you're doing it wrong. So again, these are things to create self-motivation with your employees. Efficiency, faster, less work, easier. Independence, meaning not having a manager micromanaging everything that you're doing all the time. Growth, easier for promotions and advancement. So if the employee wants to move from junior tech to senior tech or to be a manager, they see their path and they see the processes they need to learn. Fairness. Everyone follows the same playbook. Everyone follows the same processes. And pride in consistent work. All of this is also, well, actually, one thing I just want to point out around the efficiency is there's the efficiency between departments, which is important. And this is where you can show motivation to your employees. So if the finance department needs information from a project that was finished in order to bill correctly, but the operations department isn't getting that information to the finance department and they're pulling their hair out and frustrated about it, well, that's a lack of efficiency from people not following process. So these interdepartmental wars that start to happen you can use that to show, the reason why the processes are so important. But talk to your employees about these things. Try to come up with examples of why processes are essential, kind of using these motivations. Uh, then the second piece is non-negotiables. So if you just rely on motivation alone, your people aren't going to follow your processes. They're just not. Some will. I'm sure some will, but a lot won't. So motivating, especially with employees that have been there a long time and they're kind of like in the middle of you trying to do this anew when they've already been working for you for 5 to 10 years and not having to follow any processes. And you're saying to them, okay, it's a new day here. Now we're all going to be following processes. You have to put your foot down and have non-negotiables. So here's a few non-negotiable standards. Processes must be followed. If the process exists, we use it every time. No freelancing or free will. Personal preferences do not override the process. Now, we leave room for creativity, we leave room for innovation, but you can't just do it the way you want to do it. We use processes for training. Every training session must follow a documented process. If you don't have the documented process, use the training as a way of starting it. You want to start your new employees off right. So if you, for whatever reason, don't have the documentation done for their training, we'll make that the biggest agenda for the training is to create the documentation as you train them. But every training session must have documentation to follow. It's like teaching a course without a textbook. There's nothing to refer back to. We improve, we don't ignore. So this is a big one. You document your SOPs and then something changes. Well, the process has to change. You have to improve it. You can't skip it. Role ownership, and we're going to talk about a lot about this next week. Someone needs to own the process. They need to own responsibility for its accuracy. That could be the manager. It can be the frontline employee, but role ownership is important. And then accountability. Process use is measured and regularly reviewed. So here's some examples here on what to do when somebody refuses. So you can have this 5-step process that you take them through: clarify, support, offer more training, set expectations, make it clear that this is required, document their agreement or expectations. That can be done on the dashboard, and then enforce. So resistance is a training opportunity, and there's going to be resistance, but a out and out refusal to do it is a risk to your culture. You want to create, enhance, solidify your process dependent culture. And if you have a person out and out refusing, then you're putting that at risk because everybody sees it and feels it. So resistance is a training opportunity. We're always open for training. We always open for reinforcement, for giving them the why, for helping them find their motivation, but refusal is different. Since I'm out of time, I'm going to hold this next handout here for next week. And this is all about, because you have it in your chat, I'll put it again in the chat next week. This is all about how managers need to be the people responsible for making sure that what we just went through is enforced, that the motivation is created, that the non-negotiables are clear, that the resistance is given training for. Your managers are going to make or break this. If your managers aren't bought in, they don't have the motivation, then it's not going to work. And in my mind, managers who don't manage with processes have the worst job in the world, the absolute worst. If you're not managing your employees with processes, you are in a hellish nightmare that never gets better. So if you can show your managers the value of managing with process, the ease of it, the beauty in it, it just will change their day. It will change the way that they manage every day. And then this process dependent culture will really start to bloom because your managers will be behind it. So getting them on board is really important. And I'll walk through this handout next week. And then we'll also talk about tools here on the dashboard that are there in support of managers managing processes.